What's up, everyone? My name is Candis Dyer, and this is Canna Corner. Um, we have new news, and I wanted to talk to y'all about how we are now broadcasted live on the Relevant app. So I'm very excited about helping Wendy Love Edge and KM420 Radio grow the Relevant app, and that's kind of what I'm doing right here. We will be playing it live from now on the Relevant app. So if you want to comment, talk to me during the live stream, then this is the only way to do it now because I need to get better at my editing skills. And so I'm going to start pre-recording shows, not only for that, but because there are a lot of people that I want to interview that are very busy and they can't see me at Monday at 7. So it just makes it easier all the way around. Also, after you get to hear it here on the Relevant app on Canna Corner, you get to go to you get all these different choices to watch. So you have all these different days. And Monday at 7 p.m. it will be uploaded to Facebook on my Canna Corner Candis Dyer page, and then as well as YouTube Canna Corner. And then also it's replayed on WJAE420radio.com on Wednesdays at 2, and then on Sundays on KM420 Radio. So you got all these different days. And then even then, if you still can't catch any of those days, you can go check out my YouTube channel and you can catch it there. So lots of different choices. I just wanted to give a big shout out to our sponsor, the Human Solution International, as well as WJAE 420 Radio, Wendy Love Edge, and KM 420 Radio, y'all. So big shout out to them. Thank you for sponsoring the show. We couldn't do this without you and all of our listeners. Man, y'all are great. I wanted to give a big thank you to all the people that are helping grow my YouTube. I will be coming on Facebook today live doing that drawing. So if you haven't done the done thing yet, like I asked, and because it's only showing public accounts that I can write names down, it's not showing all the private accounts. So go comment done on my YouTube channel if you have subscribed and your name and you're wanting your name public, or you can just change your name or your YouTube channel from private to public, and then I can see it that way. And I'm going to make one more pass over before I do the drawing. I'm super excited today. Hey, Farah, love you. I'm super excited today to talk to Mr. Craig Cesal with the Last Prisoner Project. He is also the co-host of Cup of Joe and member of the Human Solution International. And I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. Hi, Craig. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing much better than I was a year ago when I was sitting in the federal prison at Terre Haute, Indiana.
Oh, I bet. I was just telling, I can't even remember who, I talked to so many people, but I was just telling somebody the other day how great it was to have been, tagging free Craig Cesal everywhere with freelance galore and free, you know what I mean? Just one of those tags that you're tagging everywhere. And then to be able to see you face to face in Austin and out, that was like the best feeling, you know what I mean? To be like, yes, and I know it's not over for you, but for our audience, do you want to tell them what got you put in there in the first place? I know you did 18 years, right? In federal prison?
Almost 19 years.
Wow.
And what it was is in 2001, my business was a truck repair facility where we specialized in the repair of released refrigerated semi trucks and trailers.
Right.
And some of our customers who leased these trailers would bring them to me to rebuild them, and especially a Florida company would bring them to my Chicago area shop to rebuild them after the walls and floors and that got tore up in them because they used them to smuggle. They would
Right.
stuff stuff in the walls and floors and smuggle it into the United States,
Wow.
deliver it to wherever by tearing out the inside walls, and then bring it to my shop to rebuild them.
Rebuild. Yeah.
Based on that, I was charged with conspiring to distribute the marijuana that they distributed.
Wow. And did
And
you
unfortunately, the way our federal law works, the people who actually did the distributing and made all the money, they didn't go to prison at all.
Oh my God.
But
That's
I
crazy.
received a sentence of life without the possibility of parole, um, even though I had no prior convictions whatsoever. But
Wow.
that's just the way our federal law operates.
Yep.
So I naturally went away to I was considered amongst the worst of the worst federal prisoners as a lifer, and I was sent away to the worst federal prisons. The
Oh,
prison I arrived at first was United States Penitentiary Big Sandy in Kentucky. There was 19 inmates murdered my first year there.
oh my
So
God.
it's an ugly environment.
Right. No, that is absolutely crazy, man. And the thing is, and the sad part is that the dudes that had all the money made from it and were doing all of that, they had the money to pay to get a good lawyer to get out of this, and people who don't have the money are the ones stuck uh getting put in prison. And that's just the facts. If you're rich, then you're pretty much going to be able to get out of it, but if you're not, then you just got to fight.
In most federal drug prosecutions, including marijuana, of course, the person at the top of the food chain, the head person in the drug cartel, usually doesn't go to prison because they know all the workers
Right.
and they can basically snitch or implicate the other people in crimes.
Gotcha.
The prosecutor likes, rather than sending them to prison as one person, they can send 15 people to prison and let them go free. And that's the most common. The seasoned drug criminals don't go to prison.
Right, right. Yeah, that was like in my son's case. They were trying to get him to snitch to get out of it. And they use that. Like, you know what I mean? You work for us now, or you're going to prison for life. You know what I mean? And that's crazy. Very bad. But I know that you told me, I wanted to talk a little bit about this because a lot of people don't understand. If they were like me, I've never been a part of the prison system like you. You said you had no prior convictions. When my son got thrown in, I didn't know what to do. Like, I've never visited anybody in jail. I didn't know what to do. So it's just crazy, and I want to talk to the people out there that were like us and didn't know, and let them know about how crazy it is when we get out. And I wanted you to tell them a little bit about the most difficult thing that when you got out, the few things that you found difficult that you would need help with when you got out, and like the top three. And then also about the jobs and the federal thing that you're having an issue with. I wanted to bring both those things up.
Well, as you can imagine, after 19 years, I left prison. I had no credit rating, which means I couldn't even get a social security card
Right?
because they use your credit rating as a background check.
Wow.
So, I mean, even those little details, but I walked out of prison after 19 years carrying a bunch of legal work, a bunch of legal papers, and wearing the sweatsuit that I had bought at the prison commissary. That's all I had.
Wow.
Luckily, I had family to come and get me, which, you know, some people don't even have that.
Right. Right.
But
Especially
luckily,
being as long as you are, unfortunately, a lot of people just kind of get forgotten. Life goes on, and we were definitely lucky in our case to have family to help.
but as we left the prison, because I had been told so many times, oh, guaranteed you're getting out under this new law.
Right.
So I had taken up the belief after that many years that, you know, I'll believe it when I see it.
Right.
So sure enough, my daughter came and got me, daughter and son-in-law to be. We drove out the front gate of the prison, actually took my picture at the front gate of the prison.
Wow.
And my daughter handed me this flat heavy thing as we were riding in the car. And she just looked at me and she says, well, go ahead and talk. And I said, we are talking. She says,
Right.
no, talk into that. I didn't realize that flat thing was a telephone. I now know it
Right.
to be an iPhone. But you can imagine my shock and getting used to all
Oh
the
yeah,
things that I've missed. I've never seen Facebook. I've never seen Google. I've never seen a laptop. I never, So,
that is
I mean,
so
those
crazy.
are all challenges, but even more so, having just that sweatsuit and what I was wearing, could you imagine having to buy immediately all your socks, underwear, pants, shirts, you know, all
Yep.
that stuff you need, a bar of soap, all those things all at one time is
Yeah, after
overwhelming.
19 years, I mean, you've grown out of or is gotten too old of anything that you had before. Like,
And put it this way, I went to Target. I didn't even know what size underwear I wore.
wow. Yeah. I mean, you get
Can't
handed
try on
everything.
underwear, of
Wear
course.
this. You don't get to choose what size. Like they just hand you it.
But I did get some help done. There was some money sent to me, and that was a godsend. That was sent to me from the Last Prisoner Project, but that was a godsend. I could buy a telephone. I could buy, socks and underwear and blue jeans.
Definitely. Definitely.
And even
And
just a pair of shoes.
right. Yeah, all that adds up. I know my son got picked up and raided at a house at his friend's house, and they kept everything. His friend did. So when he came home, he's like, he's wearing all Jason's clothes right now. They're like trading shirts, and we're buying them a little bit at a time. You know what I mean? So I understand what you mean about that. How when you got out and you were on, are you on probation or parole?
It's called supervised release.
Gotcha.
It's the new federal jargon for parole,
Okay.
basically. I mean, the rules are, I mean, overall are very similar, the same. I'm closely monitored. I cannot leave the district that I live in, which is the northern third of Illinois. And there's a bunch of other restrictions, upon me for the next 5 years.
Right.
But part of that is of course I'm overseen by a parole officer, and that parole officer by statute is required to help me to seek employment, to seek, job retraining and things of that nature. And right away, I knew, as I got that money in and was going through it, buying my necessities, right away, within a week of being out of prison, I started hunting around for a job.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Well, going
Def-
into prison and during my whole time in prison, I worked as a paralegal. So I effectively, as a jailhouse lawyer, practiced federal law for
right.
my 19 years in prison. And I reached out that they were the Federal Court of Appeals here in Chicago was hiring a paralegal to work under one of the Court of Appeals justices. I called up and I basically interviewed over the phone, and it looked perfect because they kind of
Right.
quizzed me on Court of Appeals stuff and all that. And they're, oh, you really know this. I explained my situation that, I am basically still a federal prisoner being on supervised release and all that. And they expressed an interest to hire me, especially because of that.
Right.
They actually had an issue in social equity. So based on that, I called the probation officer and I says, hey, I got an offer of a great job right in the federal building, right where you work. And I mean, what better place to monitor me
Yeah.
but working for the federal government in the federal courthouse? And
That is awesome. But yeah,
un- unfortunately, the
unfortunately.
probation officer didn't like that at all. Not
What was
because
his
I'd be
excuse?
working in the same building, but I was told that the job at $50,000 a year, which isn't a whole lot of money in Chicago,
Right.
our cost of living's pretty steep. But at $50,000 a year and working in the court system, she said that's too much responsibility. That's too much pay. And she asked for all the information on who I interviewed with and all that, and actually called and put the kibosh on that job. She says, here is the Illinois Job Service. The job I would prefer you to have is like a dishwasher in a restaurant, or she named a few what I would consider minimum wage jobs. But unfortunately, that is the parole and probation system. It actually, how do you live on,
You can't.
uh,
And that's just it.
those kind of wages?
That is just it. They are setting y'all up to fail. Number one, they charge you for your own drug test, which is what they're doing to my son. They charge you for your probation and parole fees he's on. And then they're telling you that you have to be at a minimum wage job. How can you pay all that, buy your clothes, get an apartment, pay electricity now, buy your phone bill, your water bill, your electric bill, and be making that much money? And the fact that it's like they don't even want you to be able to almost have a chance to succeed. And it's crazy. You think they
Yeah,
want their money.
that's unfortunately our criminal justice system that I believe perpetuates itself. I
Right.
think the probation officer, they actually work towards sending people back to prison, not
Yes.
towards working to make a person, re-enter society as a productive part of society, but rather to look for reasons to send that person back to prison to show that they're doing their job as law enforcement.
Right. And not
And
only that, but that they get free labor from y'all, man. They got it made. They don't pay like janitors and cooks, and they've got y'all to do that. And you do it for like pennies at an hour. So, you know, everybody's all like, oh, well, they get free rent and room and board. No, y'all work for that. Y'all work the whole time. If you want to get out of your cell, you get a job. And that's the only way to make time pass quicker is to keep busy. And they know that. So, I mean, they got it made. It's not just about the little probation funds that they get. They got you full time over there working for free. And that's just money in their pocket.
while I was in the prison, I worked as a welder for many years. And we were welding together and building the doors and door frames and window frames for prisons. I
Wow.
had the top wage, which was right at $1 an hour. Now
Crazy. They
imagine what a
pay out.
union welder gets paid, to
Yes.
build those prison doors anywhere else.
A lot of money, a lot of money. And that's one thing that shocked me was, those tables that have the like river running through it with that epoxy stuff, and it looks like water running through the table. I don't know if you've seen them. Well, the prison in Huntsville, I think it was Huntsville that we went to. Don't get me wrong on that. He might have been changed. I'm pretty sure it was Torres Unit Huntsville. But when you go in, everything's wood, beautiful, all that epoxy stuff done everywhere. I mean, really good log cabin quality, beautiful wood that you would pay thousands for out here in the real world. All done by the prisoners, all done by them for nothing, I'm sure.
And unfortunately, the prisons are given a lot of money for what they call the release preparation plan. They're supposed to actually have anywhere from 6 months to a year's worth of preparing a prisoner for release. How to interview for a job, how to get a credit card, how
Yeah,
to
don't do
set
none of
up
that.
for a mortgage on a home and all that. Unfortunately, those people are hired and they do work in the prison, but they don't do anything.
No, they're
The
not doing that
in the
because they
prison
didn't.
I was in, the person that the only advice they gave is they would give them the address and phone number for the homeless shelter in the area they were being released to,
Wow.
which would be, in my mind's eye, the last place somebody exiting prison would want to go to.
Right.
Somewhere where there is a lot of people with mental illness, somewhere where there is a lot of drug use. Um, Unfortunately, that is our system. And
Yeah.
I came out of prison, now not long after the passage of the First Step Act which passed actually December of 2018. As a component of that, there's $75 million every year earmarked to go out to all neighborhood groups and all that help people upon their reentry from prison. I spent weeks looking for all I wanted from those funds is my teeth went through 19 years of basically no care, and I needed a
Right.
whole lot of dental work I couldn't afford.
That's another thing. They charge you for health there. They took like $100 a year out of Jason's funds that he got from us to even go to the doctor, so he wouldn't go to the doctor. They would charge him. And he
Yes.
had insurance, good insurance, and they would not let him use it.
Nope,
So
nope.
yeah.
I experienced that, but even out of prison now, because my teeth went through all those years of, substandard
Yeah,
care, I needed a bunch of dental work. I had
right.
one tooth, eating a hole in my cheek.
God,
But I also, as you can imagine, I had no idea how to use a laptop, a
right.
smartphone, anything like that. I wanted to take some basic computer courses to, you know, I'm going to need that access in any job.
Yes.
And no, there was no funds available to me for that.
Uh,
The $75 million just basically got eaten up by a bunch of groups and administrative costs. None of that
yes.
money is actually going to the prisoners actually re-entering society.
Yeah. Yeah, they released Jason with nothing but the clothes that he had on his back, pretty much, and some artwork that he had done. They kept his social security card. They kept his birth certificate. They didn't even tell him anything about it. They didn't even tell him to go see probation. They just said, go see your parole officer. Like they didn't tell him anything. And so he's out calling every day. What do I do? I don't want to mess this up. They didn't tell him any. And then how do you get a job without a social security card and a ID? Like, but you're supposed to pay fines right away when you get out for your probation or your parole, right? Well, and then the same thing kind of happened to him that happened to you. Well, his friend had a job lined up. It happens to be a smoke and vape shop. Uh, he had the job 3 days after he got out. He started because it was already lined up for him to work there. He's making commission pay and tips, and he has already been handed the keys to the store and been asked to be a manager. And we're finding out that parole's okay with it, but probation is saying that no, he can't work at a smoke shop because it is what is the word they used? Paraphernalia. But it's not by their own laws paraphernalia until it's smoked out of. So it's just crazy. People don't understand. They're like, oh, this person gets out of federal prison, this person gets out of prison, they need to go get a job. But they don't realize the objects they put in place to make it so hard for y'all to even get basic needs when you get out.
Unfortunately, I'll bet that probation officer would tell him the same thing. Go get a job washing dishes at Denny's, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah,
And that's sad. Now, how is he going to support himself on that?
yeah. And then he's told he
Especially when
can't.
he has the ability to have a living wage
Right,
job.
right. Yeah, and then they told him he can't live here because this is a home that moves. So he can't stay with us. They're letting him stay for a little while till he can find, because we're letting him know that we're trying to find him a permanent residence. But because of this job situation, Jason asked his parole officer, hey, if I revoke probation, because of the job that I have, am I gonna revoke parole too? And they said no, only if you commit a crime. So what he's looking at right now is kind of, do I keep this job, which he's already been told he will definitely have if this happens when he gets out, or and fight the probation officer and maybe have to spend another 3 months in jail before he gets out again and gets off of that, and or just cower down and go find another job. And so that's kind of the situation we're at right now. He's got an appointment on the 6th, and we'll find that out. So in the time
Hopefully,
being, I'm waiting to get him an apartment because I don't know
yeah,
what
you
we're
don't
doing.
want to rent an apartment. He has to sit in jail.
Yes, yes. And so I'd rather if wait to see what all that happens and then get him into an apartment that way. Because why waste the money and him go back and lose it all? Like, so
And just
that's
imagine how many people that I was in prison with that come from the inner city, from families that can barely afford to live as it is.
right.
They don't have a home to go to with
Mm-mm.
a spare bed. They don't have an extra plate at the table to feed them and that. And those situations create a whole lot of desperate people that, not surprisingly, end up back in prison.
Yeah.
They end back in prison, just trying to find a way to feed themselves, a place to sleep.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Last Prisoner Project and what they do to help people like you and people who have gotten out. Maybe somebody's listening has just gotten out. They've got a marijuana case charged against them. What do they do to get help? And what does Last Prisoner Stand Project help people with?
Well, Last Prisoner Project was started by a Hollywood elite person and a person that owns a bunch of cannabis stores. And what they said is our industry was originally created by a whole bunch of people that are now in prison for exactly what we're doing out here on the street.
Right.
So they came up with a mission to use some of their profits to help the people in prison to get out of prison and to help those that are out of prison and have that felony conviction blocking them from so many things to help them, reacclimate themselves into society. And what they did for me, like I say, is they actually provided services of an attorney to help me obtain clemency from President Trump.
Awesome.
And number two, then upon my release, they provided that money that I used to buy socks and underwear and soap and all the things that a person
Right.
needs. And but now they've actually hired me to be the person that's in contact with all the prisoners, like Jason getting out of prison with nothing,
Right.
and I can coordinate, bringing money to those marijuana offenders to help them reenter society. And
That's
even in
awesome.
some states where they're allowed to get out of prison and work in the cannabis industry, we've developed connections, within the industry to basically give them a good interview at a good job as soon as they leave prison. But this is a great group that, granted the relief is limited to people that are coming out of prison with cannabis related convictions, but it's a start. It's a
Right.
start to put some equity back into this and help these people not be so criminal justice impacted, by a conviction for a plant that is now legally grown all over the United States. You can't imagine how hard it was me to sit in, literally in my cell, look out the window into the day room, and on the TV is 60 Minutes showing huge marijuana grow
Yes.
operations. And
Yes.
I was literally sitting on my bunk in the prison cell.
Man,
That
it's
is hard. But the
despicable.
Last Prisoner Project is trying to help that group of people to, and that's like you say, if there's anybody listening that knows somebody in prison, somebody that's about to get out of prison, or somebody that is out of prison and they're struggling as a result of their cannabis related conviction, please get a hold of me. Get a hold of Candis. Get a hold of me. I'm easy to reach. I'm Craig, Craig, at lastprisonerproject.org, just the
Yes,
way it
and I will
sounds.
definitely be putting that in the link below so that people can get a hold of you for sure. Y'all have a letter writing campaign too that you're asking people to help with for the prisoners who are still in. That's one thing that we can do to help them to keep their heads up. Letters. I'm sure they were very helpful to you. I know my son looked forward to them. So,
My first 10 years in prison, um, basically, I got two cards at Christmas and two cards on my birthday. I have
wow.
two sisters. And the purpose of putting people in prison is to lock them away from society. And with me, it worked. I mean, I was forgotten by virtually all my friends and even my family. Being aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever. I
Right.
was forgotten, out of sight, out of mind. But then I appeared in 2012 in a book called A Living Death: Life Without the Possibility of Parole for a Nonviolent Marijuana Offense. That gave me some notoriety. And you know what? People reached out to me, writing letters to me in that. And that made all the difference to that somebody out on the street remembered that I was there and reached out to me and spoke to me as a person.
Right.
The most exciting letters for a prisoner to get is somebody to reach out and say, "This is what I had for breakfast. This is what I'm doing this afternoon." And you know what? I'm hoping to go horseback riding on the weekend, but this is my experience with horses. To
Right.
share yourself with a person in prison and make them feel worthy to have you remembering them.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, it's
Share the
very,
outside with them. That's the only window they have into the world.
but just to feel that somebody's remembering us in prison and that they care enough to share themselves with us makes a big deal. It makes it a whole lot easier to get up in the morning and a whole lot easier to put up with the system that you're in many ways being victimized after day by,
Right.
as you spoke about the medical system there,
Yep.
the food system, the recreation system, all of that suffers the same malaise.
Yes, I know Bad Bob is on YouTube, and I talk about him a lot because I watch his videos, and he shows what the prisoners get to eat. Like literally, he's got a phone in prison, and he has snuck it in there, and he's keeping his identity. He's got somebody on the outside making these videos for him, and he's able to show people exactly what y'all are getting fed, and it's ridiculous, man. It's crazy. It wouldn't feed nobody, no growing nobody.
No, I ate a lot of things that I can't tell you. I have no idea what it was. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, y'all just live off of that money that comes in for your commissary, and you make better food that way. Hopefully, somebody's sending you some money to do that. But the letter writing, if people on the show listening are wanting to write letters to prisoners, how can they find that information?
The one that I would recommend is go to the Last Prisoner Project website. And there's a section right in there on letter writing. And it features actually a list that I'm expanding right now, but a list of people in prison. It'll give you a description of why they're in prison, a little bit of what they're about, a picture of them, and their address in prison. And like I say, just reach out and say, "I remember you. I'm thinking about you. We're fighting for you." That makes all the difference to a prisoner. I can't
Awesome.
tell you, as a rule, those letters either get taped inside your locker or up on a bulletin board if you have one in the cell. But
Right, right.
those are so important that somebody remembered that you're a live living person.
Definitely. And if you have the name of a marijuana prisoner, and you would like to get them on this letter writing campaign, they can just reach out to lastprisonerproject.org or Craig Cesal, and he's compiling that list so you can add it to his list of names.
Yes.
Heck yeah. Well, I know that we've got this the Reentry Project with the Human Solution International we're fixing to be working on together. I'm really excited about that.
And that, I think the most important component of that is to provide mentors to people getting out of prison. Because unfortunately, as you sit in prison, especially for a long time, you kind of get visions of what life's going to be if you walked out of prison.
Right.
And unfortunately, those visions that you develop, it's real easy to imagine yourself with a lifestyle like Bill Gates.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of people carry that out the front gate of the prison. So unfortunately, these people have no resources to call on, but they'll get out of prison. Their family will scrape together $1,200 for them, maybe to help them get going. But they go and spend the money on a chauffeured limousine, on a expensive
Right.
dinner, on taking their friends out, all this and that. By the end of the weekend, the money's gone, and they still don't have a spare pair of underwear.
Right. Right.
This is where the mentors come in to, hey, why don't we set up your priorities? Why don't we talk this out? Why don't we help you put together a job resume? Hey, what do you need to go apply for a job? What do you need? This
Right.
is where, helping a person, have some insight when they're released from prison. It just takes somebody that's already living outside the prison to help them with that.
Definitely. Definitely. And I know that we're calling all people who, if they'd like to be a mentor and be a part of this project, and be a mentor, that maybe you've done prison time and you have gone through the steps by yourself when you got out, and you've learned what things are good and what things you needed help with, and you can take that and help others. Or maybe you just had like somebody in the prison system. You want to help these prisoners when they get out. You want to mentor them and guide them. Hit us up at the Human Solution International, um, on thsintl.org.
That's
Oh,
it. And like I say, that can really help somebody because you kind of take on a different kind of life in prison.
right,
You don't share anything with other people. You kind of uh, to some degree kind of pull yourself into your shell, and that doesn't play well out on the street, especially with your family and people
right,
close to you. They just don't understand, and you don't understand anything differently when you leave prison. This is the way you've lived, uh, for many years, unfortunately.
right,
And it's a matter of survival in prison, but it's a matter of insult when you leave prison.
right,
And these are the things that a mentor can help you with. Hey, why don't you go spend a dinner with your grandmother? Why don't you, go take your daughter, but just go to the park and be determined to spend 3 hours in the park, just the two of you.
right,
Those are the things that, a prisoner doesn't think about, but a mentor may help them steer into that,
right.
change of life.
Definitely. Heck yeah. I know that we are looking for any kind of grant writer that would like to help, write a grant for this reentry project to help get us started and get some mentors and some stuff going. If anybody out there writes grants or knows of someone who would be interested to get a grant for this process and maybe get paid with the money that the grant that you get, a little bit of money, for doing this, we would greatly appreciate it, and reach out to us again at that same Human Solution International, either on Facebook. You can message me, Craig, Joe Grumbine, Becca, Mike, all Sarah, Yanni, uh, God, lots of people. So message any of us and we will point you in the right direction.
Because we really need people that's a field that has its own expertise. Because, like I say, there's $75 million available from the federal government for reentry, but to know how to jump through all their hoops to get that money, it is a specialized trade that I sure don't know how to
Right. None
do.
of us definitely know how to write, grants. That's way out of my league, for sure. So definitely need somebody who knows what they're doing on that. Heck yeah. Well, Craig, I'm going to give you this time not to just ask you a question, but see if there's anything particular that you wanted to talk about today that you've got to tell our audience.
Well, as you know, a push that I've been making recently is a lot of states are changing marijuanas recently. And like I say, when I was down in Texas, there was big news down there that the governor signed the bill decriminalizing marijuana. And they
Right.
followed up that headline with, an explanation of kind of what that meant. But to me, what that was missing is a line anywhere in there that said, based on this decriminalization that they're calling it, this is how many people were let out of prison.
Yeah,
Nobody was
exactly.
let out of prison. So it
Nope.
wasn't really decriminalized, granted,
Exactly.
some people with old convictions may eventually have them expunged, but what about the people that are in prison that created the industry that they're now legalizing?
That have spent years in there and have lost everything. You only get one life. So
Yes.
you spend 19, that's half your dang life, and your kids are all grown up. And I mean, we've taken so much from them on this drug war. Like, not only them, but their families, their kids, their mothers, their fathers, their sisters, their brothers missed out on all that time for a stupid plant.
Yes, I was a prime example. I got locked up just a couple of weeks before my daughter's eighth grade
Right.
graduation, and my son was just about to finish sixth grade. But they went, all those years without me, and it sure made a difference in the trajectory of their life.
Yes.
Imagine my daughter having to explain my father's in prison for life. For
Right.
what? For marijuana. And then they all shake their head. No, 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 no. Who did he kill?
Right.
People don't realize that there is a lot of people in prison for life
Still in
for
prison.
marijuana.
Yes. For weed.
I am compiling a list of them, and unfortunately, that list is fairly large. I've
Yes.
recently identified 11 more marijuana lifers in prison.
Wow. Still,
This is
y'all,
sad.
today, life.
I've seen
Sure.
murderers come and go, and I stayed there on a marijuana charge.
Yep. Yep. My dad raped my mom 3 days after a hysterectomy and got 8 years and served 3.5.
And sadly, I served 19 years of a life sentence
No
and was
victim.
only saved by the work of all these advocates
Yeah.
that stepped up and convinced the president to grant me clemency.
So see y'all, what y'all do does work. All these letter writings, these free Lance Galore things, Carrie Cannon's doing, all the Adele Wilson, Joe Grumbine, all these activists, every cannabis activist, I'm not even going to name like titles of any kind of group. We're all working for the same thing. And it works. You're here to
I'm proof of it. I never
prison,
even put in for clemency. I never even made an application for clemency
right?
under the Trump administration. All these groups stepped up and they fought like heck, and here I am. And they actually freed 11 of us serving federal life sentences for marijuana.
That is awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, Craig. I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, and we're almost an hour in. I had a great time with you, and I could pick your brain forever. So, anytime you want to come on the show, the offer is open. And
Thank you, thank you, and
you have a
thank you
wonderful
for
day.
you and your listeners who step up to help people like me that were stuck in prison and now are still enduring, having that felony conviction hanging over our heads.
Oh,
But
yes,
thank you
sir.
for helping, and please know I am living proof that it works.
Our pleasure. I can speak for every one of us. Our pleasure. This is reward enough to see you sitting here today. Like, it's amazing.
But thank you to you and to everybody that helps and continues to help. Thank you.
You too. You are one of those people. You do a great job, Craig. Much love and respect, and you have a wonderful day.
You too, you too. Thank you.
Awesome, y'all. So that was Mr. Craig Cesal, and he is a amazing, amazing guy. As you can see, he spent almost 19 years in prison uh, for a plant. And yes, there are still people in jail for a plant. I'm looking down at the relevant app to see if anybody's commented or anything, and I'm not seeing that. So I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about some events coming up that I think that y'all should check out in the Texas, Fort Worth, Dallas, Fort Worth area. One of them being the Lucky Leaf Cannabis Hemp CBD Expo in Dallas, Texas on the 9th and the 10th, 2021. I don't know why I had to say that. Obviously, it's coming up. At www.luckyleafexpo.com. You can find more information on that. It's going to be at the Irving Convention Center. And Canna Corner and KM420 Radio are going to be there as media to cover the event for y'all. So we'll be going live, doing interviews, and letting you see the people who can't make it, all the different goodies that they're going to be showing. And there's going to be speakers and there's all kinds of stuff. So it's going to be an amazing time. If y'all want tickets to that event, like I said, www.luckyleafexpo.com and go get you some tickets. Also, another great event that's coming up, DFW Normal presents DFW Marijuana March and Freedom Festival at Burnett Park. They do this every year. It's a marijuana march. We all gather. There's like 1,000 to 3,000 people, depending on how hot and how many people show up that day. But there's always a big crowd, lots of sponsors, speakers, music, and they are partnered up with Fort Worth for the day, where Fort Worth just leaves people alone, and we march at 420 to the uh, not courthouse, not the Capitol, and that's going to be on July 24th, 2 to 9. You can light up there, y'all. Police on both sides. We've been 2 years. They didn't do last year because of Corona, but it's a great, great time. So if y'all are available on July 24th in the Fort Worth area from 2 to 9, come check that out. We will be there. KM420 Radio, the Human Solution International Texas chapter. Yeah, I forgot to mention they're going to be at the expo too. And Canna Corner are all going to be there covering the event. So if you can't make it, check out the Facebook. I'm going to have videos, pictures, all kinds of good stuff for y'all to see. Oh, what's new? THSI is proud now to be a sponsor of the Windy Love Edge, WJAE 420 Radio. So proud to be a part of Wendy's family and help her out. So if y'all are not knowing who Wendy is, go to www.wjae420.com, and I'm sure it will take you to her Instagram, her Facebook, she's got the Wendy Love Edge show. She is a great person. So proud to be part of her team. Also, the Relevant app, y'all. If you have not went and downloaded, I know the people who are listening today, y'all get to hear Canna Corner first, live. I mean, there's no video, it's audio, but still, you get to be there right there when it's live. No editing, no nothing. If you want to watch the show, then you kind of need to stay on there, stay tuned to find out when I'm going to be recording the live, because different guests are going to ask for different days that are good for them. So I'm kind of opening up the schedule any day before Monday so I can load it on the thing. So y'all will kind of have to be a part of the Canna Corner Relevant to keep an eye on that. And it's on Wikipedia. There are so many cannabis community, great KM420 Radio, the Human Solution International Cup of Joe is now on. All kinds of cannabis people. We're trying to get them over there because, as y'all all know, we get Facebook censorship. It's a bitch. And we're just tired of it. Like, all our cannabis groups get reported and get blacklisted, and you can't even look them up. These people over here on Wikipedia and Relevant want us, y'all. So go download that app. Make you a little profile. You can make a vibe. That's what they call them, vibes. Like this one, the Canna Corner one that I'm on right now live. And so you just go through there, go to Wikipedia, make you up a vibe. Or there's politics. There's all kinds of different things. You just got to go check it out and see where you best fit and what vibe you best fit in. So it's really cool. Y'all go check that out. Thank y'all so much for joining me today on Relevant. I can't wait till y'all get to see this on Monday at 7 p.m. on the Canna Corner Candis Dyer page. And again, the YouTube, y'all, thank you so much for doing the YouTube. Stay tuned for the winners of the t-shirts. Today I will be doing a live at some point, so y'all just gotta stay tuned. I'll let you know about an hour before I'm gonna go live. That way y'all can like set y'all's clock so you can watch, see who wins. And remember, comment done if you have subscribed and you are not a public profile, so I can add your name. Love each and every one of you. Thank you so much, and y'all have a great day.